Chapter 11 You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. She will marry even if she is unwilling. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Lan Yanran ate with his head lowered, thinking that she was referring to him. He had once made known his bold ambitions at school, claiming he would definitely be admitted to the Rome City Medical Research Institute. Now, he felt his face blazing up. Anran is back and she is also the daughter of the Lan family. Anran, you haven't learned any medical knowledge in the countryside, so you definitely can't compare to Yashin. However, I have made arrangements so you can attend the same school as Yashin. After all, you aren't young anymore, and if news spreads, others might think the Lan family is mistreating you. You aren't going to school to play and it isn't as carefree here as compared to the countryside. Don't embarrass me, and if you tarnish the Lan family's name, you can leave the family with your brother. When Lan Yanran heard his name, he lowered his head silently, his small face flushed. Lan Anran hated the current atmosphere, she was forcibly suppressing the fire in her heart as she smiled. Grandma, I wouldn't disappoint you. I still want to apply to the Rome City Medical Research Institute. Besides, exams are like competitions. There are highs and lows, but as long as I work hard to learn, I believe the results won't be too bad. Grandma, I know you originally wanted to apply, but weren't able to make it. I will definitely fulfill your dreams for you. Lan Yashin almost laughed out loud. Did she really think she could enter the Rome City Medical Research Institute? Is that a place just anyone can enter? It was wishful thinking. The words put a bad taste in Zhao Shumei's mouth. She found it hard to swallow and her face turned flush. Back then, she really wanted to enter the Rome City Medical Research Institute, but she was the first to be eliminated due to her lack of ability. Zhao Shumei was a prideful woman and hearing those words made her furious. She was about to get angry when Su Yenshan quietly pulled the corner of her clothes, beckoning her to go back to business. Su Yenshan was anxious as she was afraid that Mo Jinrong would find Lan Yashin. Her daughter could not be implicated. Zhao Shumei tried hard to swallow the food in her mouth. She thought of an excuse and spoke, I called you here today for another matter. The marriage between the Mo family and the Lan family was decided by the old master long ago. I'm sure everyone knows this. Now that Anran has reached a marriageable age, we can't go against the promise your grandfather made. Originally, it was meant for Yashin, but she is still young, so Anran will go instead. You will take her place to marry into the Mo family. Lan Yashin couldn't wait to see Lan Anran's reaction. She heard that Mo Jinrong was an old and ugly monster. Legend had it that he was tyrannical, loved to eat people, and was extremely violent. If Lan Anran married that monster, she would be tortured to death. This was a marriage arranged by their grandfather, so if she didn't obey, Grandma wouldn't be happy and a show would unfold. Mom, how could you? Wasn't Yashin supposed to marry him? Anran just returned, how can she get married? Lan Tingyun was upset. What? I wronged her by letting her get married. How could I harm her? Zhao Shumei stopped moving the chopsticks in her hand and asked. That's uncertain, Lan Yanran muttered softly. Presumptuous. Would I harm you? You have no manners. Zhao Shumei slammed the bowl in her hand on the table and said angrily. Mom, Yanran didn't mean that. It's just that Anran just returned, so it wouldn't be appropriate for her to marry into the Mo family. The Mo family is a wealthy and prestigious family, Anran is, Li Yueru interrupted. Everyone knew the horrifying rumors about Mo Jinrong. She would never let her daughter jump into this fiery pit. Anran will be fine. Yueru, the marriage to the Mo family was decided a long time ago and Anran isn't young anymore. She might have a bad temper, but she is still a daughter of the Lan family. After she marries over and becomes a wife, her temper will naturally become restrained. Su Yenshan smiled, her face sleazy and greedy. Lan Yanran cursed silently in his heart. Bulsh*T. Why don't you marry? Yen Shan, Yashin is also a daughter of the Lan family, why isn't she going to marry him? Li Yueru retorted. Shut up. There is no end. Li Yueru, would I harm Anren? Previously, we decided on Yashin, but you should know that Yashin is the hope of our family and will bring glory to the Lan family in the future. How can she marry Mo Jinrong? Besides, Yashin is still young while Anren is of a suitable age. I don't expect any big contribution to the Lan family from her, I'm just asking her to marry into the Mo family to be a young mistress. Is that so bad? Zhao Shumei's face was furious, her eyes wide. Mom, Anren wants to attend school too, I couldn't bear to marry her off at this age. The Mo family. Mom, you've heard the rumors. How can you push Anren into such an arrangement? Lan Tingyun asked reluctantly. He had never thought about marrying Lan Anren off, let alone to Mo Jinrong. The reason for agreeing before was to bring Lan Anren back. Now that she was back, they would naturally have to discuss it again. Chapter 12 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Compensate for the past translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Lan Tingyun, are you still my son? How is the Mo family a bad option? After Anren is married, she won't have to worry about food or clothing and she will enjoy her life. How did I become the villain? If Yashin wasn't so young, she wouldn't be getting such a good deal. Don't you know how to be grateful? You ingrates, let me make this clear, she will have to get married even if she is unwilling. Zhao Shumei's tough tone disappointed Lan Tingyun. He thought that no matter how bad he was still her biological son and even if she treated him badly, she would still love his children. He didn't expect her to throw his daughter into a fiery pit on their first meeting. He couldn't accept it. Lan Yashin watched from the side happily as a fight threatened to erupt. She hurried up and said, it's all my fault. This was originally for me, if it wasn't for my young age, we wouldn't have to trouble you both. She lowered her head as if she did something wrong and even shed some tears. Zhao Shumei looked distressed, she hurriedly pulled her into her arms and wiped her tears. Good girl, how can I blame you? Don't cry, you are the best child in the Lan family. The Lan family will have to depend on you to bring us glory, you are our only hope. Your sister doesn't have anything to do and if she gets married early, it will save her from embarrassing us. Mom, you are wrong. Anren is also still a child and she didn't do anything wrong. How could she shame the Lan family? She is your biological granddaughter, how could you treat her like this? Lan Tingyun finally said his innermost thoughts. Over the years, he knew that his mother loved his older brother. She would often neglect his feelings and by extension, didn't like his children as well. But he could endure it. Now, his mother was being too much and he couldn't help but speak up. Are you going to rebel? Lan Tingyun, am I treating you poorly? I'm sending Anren to a good place, she should be grateful. If she gains anything, she might be able to help the Lan family. Isn't that a good thing? Zhao Shumei only had money in mind and the Mo family was a prestigious family. They were loaded and if Lan Anren married into the family, she could benefit, which would be a great thing. Mom, why do you only think about money? The Mo family is from hell, how could you? Lan Tingyun wanted to have a good talk with his mother, but was stopped by Lan Anren. She hadn't spoken just now because she was too lazy to say another word to Zhao Shumei, but now, she couldn't just stay silent. Grandma, Dad, Mom, stop fighting. I'm willing to marry into the Mo family. Lan Anren spoke calmly, there was even a slight smile on her face. She didn't seem unwilling at all. Anren, don't be scared, your grandma can't force you. Lan Tingyun looked at his daughter, thinking she was coerced into agreeing and immediately felt his heartache. When did I force her? You heard it, Anren is willing. Anren, you are my good granddaughter. Zhao Shumei's smile brightened. Lan Yashin was a little surprised. She thought that Lon Anren didn't understand and pretended to be very sad. Sis, I'm sorry, it's my fault. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have to marry Mo Jinrong, that beast. Lon Anren was too lazy to deal with Lon Yashin, she just wanted to finish the meal and hurry home. It's all right. She was still as calm as ever, saying that she was going to marry Mo Jinrong voluntarily. The regret from her past life would probably be compensated in this lifetime. Lon Anren's reaction made her a little surprised. Looking at the expressions around the table, Lon Yashin had a vague understanding. Lon Anren was forced. Even if she was bold, would she dare to go against Grandma's words? It seemed that Grandma was Lon Anren's nemesis. Lon Yashin was overjoyed. She looked at Su Yenshan and they smiled, eating triumphantly. Lon Tingyun had more to say, but Lon Anren held the back of his hand and signaled for him to talk at home. He then swallowed his grievances. The table calmed down again, everyone immersed in their own thoughts. Lon Tingyun and Li Yueru didn't eat much as they were thinking about Lon Anren. After the meal, the family left and after they were gone, the house burst into laughter. Back in the Lon family villa. Lon Anren saw Lon Tingyun's expression and said, "Dad, it's settled, you don't have to brood over it." Lon Anren spoke sensibly. Lon Tingyun already felt like he owed his daughter a lot. The marriage to Mo Jinrong was meant for Lon Yashin, but she wasn't willing and it fell on his daughter. He was at a loss. Mo Jinrong was said to be a man-eating monster with a moody temperament. His daughter hadn't had parental love since she was a child and would definitely suffer there. In Rome City, everyone knew about the marriage between the Lon family and the Mo family, so it wasn't a promise that could be violated. "Anren, you can't marry Mo Jinrong, he is a cannibalistic monster. I let you down. I know that you are sensible and well-behaved and don't want to make things difficult for me, but I can't push you into this fiery pit. Don't marry because of me and your mother, we will help you." Lon Anren was a sensible child and Lon Tingyun feared that she had agreed to the marriage so that things wouldn't be difficult for him and hence, he felt extremely guilty. Chapter 13 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Report Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations, Dad, don't worry, I'm alright and I'm willing. Lon Anren held on to Lon Tingyun's arm and smiled. He is a temperamental person, I'm afraid that after the wedding, the more Lon Tingyun thought about it, the more wrong it felt. He wanted to dissuade Lon Anren, but was interrupted. "Dad, don't worry, it's nothing. We will get along slowly after we're married," Lon Anren said obediently. "Sis. Are you sure you want to marry that monster?" Lon Yanran was pouting on the side. His sister had just returned home, but was leaving to get married before they could even get close. He couldn't bear it. He was cursing Mo Jinrong in his heart. Why did he have to like his sister? Lon Anren touched Lon Yanran's small head, rubbed his soft hair and smiled. "You don't have to worry about me, I'll protect myself." The family's worry made Lon Anren extremely touched. She didn't feel such concern in her past life, but she was finally experiencing the feeling of a family. When Lon Anren saw Lon Tingyun hesitate, she said they could invite Mo Jinrong home to see for themselves. Lon Tingyun felt a little relieved when he heard this. Mrs. Lon felt bad for her daughter as the marriage was done in such a hurry. The next day, Lon Yanran took Lon Anren to Rome City University. Rome City University was a star student's goal and many people were dying to enter this school. Almost everyone from the Lon family attended Rome City University and naturally, it was famed for its science laboratory. The students who entered the experimental class often ended up becoming doctors. The Lon family was a medical family and of course they had to attend the experimental class. Many members of the Lon family attended the school, but they were not forced to become doctors, many of which were liberal arts students. "Sis, let's report to our teacher first." Lon Yanran got out of the car and walked with Lon Anren. Many girls pointed at them along the way. Needless to say, Lon Anren knew that Lon Yenran was a school hunk. His grades were poor, but it didn't affect his good looks. He was adored by many girls in the school and was known as a star. Lon Anren didn't panic at all. She stared straight ahead as she followed Lon Yenran. She was born pretty and had an excellent figure which attracted the adoration of many boys and the jealousy of many girls. Everyone was looking at them with jealousy. Lon Yenran felt uncomfortable from the stairs and wanted to hurry to the classroom. They sped up and arrived at their teacher's office. "Good morning, I am Lon Anren." Lon Anren spoke first, her voice sweet and gentle, attracting the attention of the head teacher, Li Yu. Li Yu eyed her up and down. She had on a white coat, jeans, and high ponytail, which made her look like a doctor. "Your parents have spoken to me about your situation. You haven't learned any science and will have to work hard in the future. We have an examination coming up soon." Lon Anren spoke with a sweet smile still on her face. "Teacher, rest assured, I will." Li Yu thought that she was too beautiful, but she didn't know whether Anren could keep up with her studies. She was worried of tarnishing her reputation. Her classes came first every year and she didn't intend to be dragged down. Since Lon Anren and Lon Yenran were seen together, the school exploded. Many people were speculating about their relationship and had posted photos of them in chats to discuss. Lon Yashin saw it too. As the school beauty, how could she allow anyone else to take her title? She refuted the rumors on the official website. "Don't talk nonsense. She is my sister and Lon Yenran's biological sister. She will be in our experimental class from now on. Don't compare me with her, we are not on the same level." Lon Yashin's sarcastic words instantly explained their relationship. After all, who would dare to refute the school beauty? When they heard that Lon Anren was Lon Yenran's biological sister, many girls were immediately swayed, siding with Lon Anren. They started acting hypocritically, complimenting Lon Anren with everything they had learnt in school. The class was also bustling. Many boys saw Lon Anren's photos and started to covet her while many girls became jealous. "Well, that's great. Isn't she just a vixen?" a girl pouted and said in dissatisfaction. "Shut up, you're so annoying." Lin Cheng kicked the table and said dissatisfied. He was sleeping and had a bad temper when he was awakened. He roared and no one dared to say anything. At this time, the head teacher, Li Yu, brought Lon Anren in. She was surprised to see the class so quiet. "We have a new classmate today, so let's introduce her." Li Yu directed Lon Anren to the front. Chapter 14. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Rome City University Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Lon Anren's voice was soft and beautiful. She said softly, "Hello everyone, I am Lon Anren, pleased to meet you." The class fell silent and everyone stared at Lon Anren. She wore a white coat and jeans while her high ponytail emphasized her tiny face. Her skin was fair and glowing and her eyes were big and bright. She was a beautiful sight. Lon Anren was like a fairy that continually radiated her own charm. Wasn't she too pretty? She was prettier than the photographs. The people in the audience were dumbfounded and even Lin Cheng, who had never been interested in girls, was awestruck. The experimental class was a place with too many boats chasing too few fishes. They always thought that Lon Yashin was the best looking. They didn't expect to see such an ethereal visitor. However, some students showed contempt for Lon Anren. The experimental class was not a beauty pageant and every year, there were only a few slots in Rome City Medical Research Institute given to Rome City University. Those who looked good might not necessarily do well in exams. This was a place for the capable, it wasn't for just anyone. "Who is she?" Lin Cheng asked sarcastically. "I heard that she is the eldest daughter of the Lon family, Lon Yenran's older sister," someone speculated. "What a display of nepotism. That explains how she can enter." Since Yenran is trash, does that mean his elder sister is even worse? She is just a wild child and yet, she dares to be in our class. I don't agree. A hand raised and everyone turned to the voice. It was Sun Hui. Why are you unhappy? Li Yu, the head teacher, asked as she pushed her glasses with a frown. Sun Hui was the top student in the class and the one who usually caused the most trouble. Although Li Yu didn't like her very much, she didn't make it obvious. Teacher, this is an experimental class. We worked hard to get in and have to survive an elimination every month. How can she just join us? It's not fair to the rest of us. Sun Hui was also a rich second-generation heir to her family's wealth. But she prioritized talent and despised those who used money to solve everything. Yes. It's not fair. The experimental class is a place for those with talent. I heard that she came from the countryside. How can she be with us? Wouldn't it lower our standards? Someone in the class immediately followed. Li Yu was embarrassed, but this was something the principal had wanted and she had no choice. Just as she was about to say something, Lan Anren spoke, the standards of the experimental class. Are you referring to these grades? Lan Anren pointed to the grades on the wall. The best result in the experimental classes is from Lan Yashin of Class 2. Although we are not as good as Class 2, we are still one of the top in the school. Can you match up? Get out if you know what's best, we wouldn't want a rotten apple to drag us down. Sun Hui's tone was extremely provocative and she clearly despised Lan Anren. What else did she have other than her looks? That's the top score. The first place is 130 to 150 points. The experimental class standards don't seem like much. Lan Anren looked at the result of Sun Hui, the first place in this class. What? You dare to insult me? This country girl sure has a big ego. What do you know? Do you know how difficult the test paper is? The countryside only teaches pinyin right. Sun Hui smiled playfully. The whole class laughed loudly. You are Sun Hui, the ugly chatterbox. If you're so capable, why aren't you top of the level? Lan Anren's words stumped her. She clenched her fists tightly and was furious. She wanted to be first in their level, but Lan Yashin was always a little higher than her. This was an unexplainable pain. You wild child, a sharp mouth alone isn't going to be useful. The experimental class tests one's ability, but you're here thanks to money and will be eliminated in 2 days. If you want to enter the experimental class, you'll have to go through me. Accept my challenge or you won't have the right to stay here. Lan Anren hesitated, wondering if it was too early to reveal her abilities. But if she didn't compete, she wouldn't be able to enter this school. Sun Hui took her hesitation as fear. The people in the audience were also whispering. It seems that this bimbo is scared. Someone that comes from the countryside wouldn't know about herbs, she probably only knows the wild flowers by the roadside. Seems like it. Just look at her. Sun Hui is the second best in our grade, the eternal second place. How can this little village girl defeat her? It seems that the wealthy village beauty is about to leave. She definitely won't be able to win. Those who made such comments were mostly girls, their eyes were filled with jealousy and disdain. What, are you scared? Don't come here if you're scared, just scurry away. Sun Hui looked at Lan Anren triumphantly. She was very confident. Besides, aside from Lan Yashin, is there anyone else here that could compare to her? Sun Hui, Li Yu wanted to speak when Lan Anren interrupted her. I accept your challenge. Lan Anren wouldn't let them look down on her, it wouldn't hurt to establish herself. Sun Hui was slightly taken aback as she smiled. Some people don't know their own abilities and insist on putting on a front. You can't blame me for this. The people below the stage shook their heads, predicting Lan Anren's loss. They didn't hold any hope for her at all. Chapter 15 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Challenge Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Sun Hui took 3 pieces of grass from under the table, placed them neatly on the table, and looked at Lon Anren with a smile. These were the 3 kinds of herbs used in the experimental class today. Tell me what they are and their medicinal properties. Lon Anren stepped forward and looked at them, a smile appearing on her face. Aren't these the 3 herbs used in her 3-ingredient medicinal soup? This was too simple. Sun Hui looked at the smile on Lon Anren's face, thinking that Anren was stumped and the smile was used to conceal her guilty conscience. She spent a great deal of effort to find these 3 pieces of grass. They grew in extremely harsh environments and generally wouldn't be known by people from the countryside. A countryside girl like Lon Anren might recognize wild flowers and wild grass, but she couldn't possibly know about something so good. However, the next second, the smile was wiped off Sun Hui's face. Lon Anren named the herbs easily. The one on the left is called Gynostemma pentaphyllum. It has anti-inflammatory, detoxifying, cough-inhibiting and expectorant effects. It can be made as tea and is mainly used for physical weakness and some chronic inflammations. The bidens in the middle can clear away heat and detoxify, promote blood circulation and remove blood stasis, and reduce blood pressure. The light bamboo leaf on the right is called Ophiopogon japonicus. It is a diuretic, produces fluids to quench thirst, tongue sores, etc. Do you have anything else? That was too simple. Don't tell me it is the test paper question you spent so much effort to find. Li Yu was stunned. How did she know all of these? This information was only found in the Institute of Medicine textbooks and it wouldn't be easy to have them memorized. Sun Hui was stunned for several seconds. Her mouth was wide open and she couldn't believe what happened. She actually knows these herbs. Gah! It actually hadn't stumped her. This was new information she had just learnt. The other classmates were in disbelief and were asking how Lon Anren could have known about them. Suddenly, someone said that it was normal for her to know about these since she was from the countryside. After all, is there anything the countryside didn't have? This statement convinced everyone and some thought that it was a coincidence. When Sun Hui heard this, she was certain Anren was lucky and that it wasn't strange for someone from the countryside to recognize these herbs. This was dumb luck and she couldn't possibly be so fortunate next time. How was that? If there are no more questions, Ms. Li, can I sit? Lon Anren smiled. Li Yu was stunned for a moment. Since Sun Hui didn't protest further, she nodded. You can sit next to Zhao Xiaolei. Sun Hui watched Lon Anren sit. She was furious and unconvinced. She secretly cursed Anren, hoping she would be eliminated. Lon Anren's deskmate was also a rich second-generation heir, Zhao Xiaolei. She talked non-stop every day, probably because she was lonely and no one listened to her. Now that she finally had a deskmate, she was extremely excited. She tugged on Lon Anren's clothes with a smile. Anren, you are so beautiful. Is Lon Yashin from class 2 really your sister? She is the school beauty, but now that you are here, there's going to be a new school beauty. Lon Anren didn't speak, she just smiled. Just as she was about to stand, she seemed to have caught Lon Yashin standing at the door. She suddenly remembered how she believed Lon Yashin's words in her past life and how Lon Yashin had forced her off the cliff with each step. She really couldn't leave her alone. A horrifying smile appeared at the corner of Lon Anren's mouth, making Zhao Xiaolei shiver. Zhao Xiaolei's grades weren't bad, but she wasn't forced to be a doctor by her parents. She was interested in the profession and compared to the others, had the least amount of stress. The experimental class was judged based on the students' results. Aside from Zhao Xiaolei, everyone else wasn't optimistic about Lon Anren, thinking she was just here to make up for the numbers and would be kicked out soon. The experimental class wasn't a place anyone could stay. It was equivalent to the Olympics, a test of one's ability. Someone as beautiful as Lon Anren stirred the jealousy of many female students and almost all the girls ostracized her. When Lon Yashin came back from physical education class, her expression was extremely dark. When her group of friends saw that she was upset, they knew it was because of Lon Anren. Don't worry, I have seen the photos. She isn't as pretty as our Yashin. Besides, I don't think she knows anything. Think about it, a countryside girl wouldn't know about chemistry and biology, she probably doesn't even know how to write. She might not even be able to match up to Lon Yanran. Hearing this, Lon Yashin felt slightly better. Don't say that. My sister is used to the freedom in the countryside and the education in the countryside is naturally inferior to ours. She can't be blamed. There was an underlying insult in Lon Yashin's words, but on the outside, she seemed kind and understanding. She is overestimating herself, everyone knows the Lon family values reputation. Lon Yanran's frequent failure is already embarrassing enough. If you hadn't held up the Lon family's reputation, the Lon family would have been finished. Doesn't Lon Anren think it's embarrassing enough? She doesn't know anything and yet, she is here trying to flaunt her abilities. She'll just end up embarrassing herself. Her friends laughed. Well, I have no choice. I'll have to study hard and maintain honor for the Lon family. In other words, the Lon family could only rely on her. Yashin, don't worry, you are already a default student of the Rome City Medical Research Institute. You will definitely be able to get in. Her friends nodded in agreement. After leaving the classroom, Lon Anren carried her school bag and prepared to go home. Just then, Lon Yashin caught up with her. Lon Yashin wanted to hold Lon Anren's hand, but the moment she touched her, Lon Anren swung her away with disgust and spoke in a cold voice, I don't like people touching me. Lon Yashin lowered her head and let out an mmh. Disgust and hatred appeared in her eyes, and she quickly turned the topic away with a smile. Gnav sis, I heard that you are going to apply to the Rome City Medical Research Institute. Does it have anything to do with you? Lon Anren didn't even turn her head, she continued to walk as she spoke. Sis, not everyone in the Lon family has to become a doctor. It's a difficult profession. It's good enough for just Yanran to be a doctor. You haven't learnt the basics and aren't familiar with the knowledge, so it will be very difficult. I don't think second uncle and second aunt will blame you if you don't participate. As for grandma, I can help put in a good word. Don't worry, you don't have to make it difficult for yourself. Lon Yashin's words seemed kind and she seemed to be thinking for Lon Anren's sake, but what she meant was that Lon Anren was a bottom-feeder just like Lon Yanran and learning would be useless. Chapter 16 You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The Lucky School Beauty Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Lon Anren didn't stop, but sped up instead. Her voice was still icy cold. Don't worry, Lon Yanran isn't the only one in the Lon family, there's still me and there will be a spot for me in the Rome City Medical Research Institute. Lon Yashin sped up as well. When she heard Lon Anren's words, she paused momentarily and broke into a mocking laughter internally. This wild girl has a lofty tone. The Rome City Medical Research Institute accepts less than 10 students every year and those that make it are the cream of the crop. Does a wild country girl like herself think she can enter such a prestigious school? Ignorance is bliss. Although Lon Yashin despised her, she had to put on a front. Hence, she smiled and said, Sis, I know you can do it and when the time comes, the Lon family will be happy for you. When are our families going to get together? You haven't visited Grandma since you came back. Speaking of which, Grandma is really pitiful, as Grandpa passed a long time ago. It wasn't easy for her to raise both of our fathers. I often hear Grandma talk about you, saying that she misses you. Towards the end, Lon Yashin spoke in a sad tone, but Lon Anren could hear her ill intentions. Old Mrs. Lon missed her. What a joke. Old Mrs. Lon was probably hoping she would hurry down to accompany her dead partner. In her past life, old Mrs. Lon was a mean and snobby person. Was it possible for her to have changed in this lifetime? She wasn't a sentimental person and treated her own sons differently. There was no motherly kindness in her eyes, only filial piety. Old Mrs. Lon loved her eldest son, Lon Tingyi, the most, and only recognized one granddaughter, Lon Yashin. It was strange as Lon Yanran was the only male heir in the Lon family. Logically, she should favor him the most, but Lon Yanran wasn't close to her and had even said that he hated her, which caused old Mrs. Lon to hate him as well. That left her with one granddaughter, Lon Yashin, who was best at making old Mrs. Lon happy. Lon Anran smiled and finally stopped. They were already out of the school. She fluffed her hair and said, "Since Grandma thinks of me so much, I'll wish her good night." "Okay, Grandma will be very happy." Lon Yashin smiled. "You're going to be in luck." "Bye," Lon Anran whispered in Lon Yashin's ear softly, then turned and left with a deep smile in her eyes. Lon Yashin didn't understand what Lon Anran meant, but she too turned around to leave. Suddenly, she felt something soft under her feet. It felt like a ball of cotton, and when she looked down, she had an urge to vomit. A soft, fresh pile of sh*t was stuck firmly to her right foot, giving off a disgusting stench. Lon Yashin's head was spinning. She was extremely particular about cleanliness and had never experienced such a situation before. Lon Anran's words suddenly came to mind. Luck. Did she mean dog.sh*t. Luck? She should have known. Was it deliberate? sh*t. Lon Yashin cursed repeatedly as she moved her feet away in disgust. At this time, people kept coming over, looking at her in disgust. Everyone knew that she was the school beauty, but now that she became a joke, everyone was avoiding her. It was simply too smelly. "Hey! Aren't you the school beauty? What are you doing here?" Sun Hui walked out smelling like ink, and when she saw Lon Yashin's embarrassed expression, she walked over to take a look. She looked down at Lon Yashin and chuckled. "Ha ha ha, the school beauty stepped in dog sh*t, good luck," she sneered loudly and waved her hand before turning to leave. At that moment, many people came to see Lon Yashin's sorry state. Some even took pictures of her and posted them on the school's official website. Lon Yashin suffered silently. She would definitely get back at her. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He is here to ask for her hand translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. The moment Lon Anran stepped into the house, she saw two men in the dining hall drinking tea with Lon Tingyun. There were extremely valuable gifts stacked at the door, each one seeming to be very expensive. Lon Anran immediately guessed that Mo Jinrong was here to ask for her hand. Seeing the beautiful girl come through the door, Mo San the butler pushed his gold-wire glasses up the bridge of his nose and disbelief flashed past his eyes. The rumors of her unparalleled beauty were indeed true. As Mo Jinrong's butler, Missouri San had naturally seen a fair share of beautiful women, but it was the first time he had seen such youthful beauty. He smiled. "It looks like this is the young lady of the Lon family, Lon Anran." Lon Anran nodded silently, her gaze falling on the suited man by the side. He wore a white suit, his lips were red, teeth white, and he was staring at her quietly with a pair of black and shiny eyes. She sensed a flash of awe in Mo Jinrong's eyes. In her past life, he had looked at her with such a gaze as well. "Anran, let me introduce you. This is young Master Mo Jinrong, and the one beside him is Butler Missouri." Lon Tingyun gave a polite and thorough introduction. He eyed Mo Jinrong and the butler. Mo Jinrong was as ugly as the rumors said, but his butler was very good looking. Lon Tingyun felt troubled. How could such an ugly appearance match up to his daughter? Lon Anran didn't speak and was forcing down a smile. She placed her bag down, quietly seated herself, and looked at Mo Jinrong with a piercing gaze. Mo Jinrong was standing, but she recognized him at a glance. He had swapped positions with his butler. Yen Ran, go outside and play. Children aren't sensible, don't mind them, Lan Tingyun said awkwardly to his son. Hi, I am Lan Anren. Lan Anren's voice was soft as she introduced herself gently. Mo Jinrong eyed the girl in front of him. She didn't seem to have a violent temperament as rumored. She was dressed like a student, with a touch of blue embellishment on her white coat. She had an exquisite face and her fair and slender swan-like neck stretched all the way to her collarbone. With her long black hair and big watery eyes, she looked perfect. He had made up his mind, Lan Anren would be the lady of the Mo family. She was very suitable. Ahem, Miss Lan, I'm here today to ask for your hand in marriage. Mo-san didn't say much, looking as though he was here for a negotiation. Lan Anren nodded, with a faint smile on her face. What a poor pretense, Lan Anren thought with contempt. It's not impossible for me to marry into the Mo family. It's just that the Mo family needs to give me some extra betrothal gifts. Those at the door aren't enough. I need the same rights as you and I want a house. If you agree, I will marry you. Lan Anren smiled. Becoming a lady of the Mo family wasn't a simple identity, and it was even more difficult to have the same rights as Mo Jinrong. She needed the identity. A house could be used as her secret stronghold. This would be a secret that no one would know about. Anren, you can't do that. Lan Tingyun felt it was overboard and wanted to stop her. Mo-san raised his head and looked at the person beside him, rotating the jade ring on his finger before nodding. I agree. This will be my wedding gift. Mo-san took out a beautiful box that was surrounded by sapphires. Lan Anren recognized it immediately as she had received such a box in her past life. She accepted it, her eyes becoming moist. There was a jade bracelet in the center of the box, it was white with a hint of green. This is my sincerity. Since Miss Lan accepts this bracelet, it means that the marriage is settled. Mo-san spoke like a boss. Mo Jinrong had been observing Lan Anren and noticed the abnormality in her mood, but it wasn't a big fluctuation. She was probably excited from receiving a gift for the first time. This was a marriage the two families arranged long ago. Even if he wasn't willing, his mother would interfere, hence, it was better to go with the flow. Besides, this little girl wouldn't be able to wreak havoc. Lan Anren nodded, staring at the bracelet without a word. Lan Tingyun was worried Lan Anren had asked for too much, angering Mo Jinrong. He was shocked that he had agreed. The marriage has to be confidential. We won't hold a wedding and we will get the marriage license directly, Mo-san continued. Sure, Lan Anren agreed without a thought. Mo Jinrong found the crisp reply hard to accept. He originally thought Lan Anren would reject this, but she didn't. Since that's the case, it's settled. Let's get married in 3 days. What? 3 days? Lan Tingyun found it too fast. They had just asked for her hand today and wanted so many harsh requirements. They also wanted to get the marriage license in 3 days. It was too fast for him to accept. Uncle Lan, you disagree? Mo Jinrong asked with a raised brow. No, I don't disagree, but it's too fast. Lan Tingyun wanted to explain but was interrupted by Lan Anren. Dad, it's all right. Lan Anren signaled to him with a glance. Lan Tingyun kept quiet, agreeing with his silence. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Last Hope Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. After leaving the Lan family's house, Mo Jinrong and Mo-san got into a black car. Mo Jinrong wore his sunglasses calmly and looked straight ahead. Master Rong, are you really going to marry young Mistress Lan? Mo-san asked politely. Mo Jinrong replied simply. But I heard that she is from the countryside. Is she really worthy to be the young lady of the Mo family? You are rumored to be a man-eating monster with an ugly appearance. I thought Lon Anran would refuse the marriage. I didn't expect her to agree so willingly. Mo San was amazed by Lon Anran's appearance, but looks alone weren't enough to be the young lady of the Mo family. Strangely, she didn't object and was very calm, which surprised him. There was a hint of contempt in his tone. As a village girl, it is her blessing to be able to marry into the Mo family. She can disregard the eyes of others, but that is because of the Mo family's money. Just let her be, Mo Jinrong spoke coldly. In the past few years, many had wanted to marry into the Mo family, which had hundreds of millions in fortune. How innocent could a country girl be? Is there news of Zero? Mo Jinrong asked seriously. Mo San shelved his look of contempt and replied seriously, sorry, Master Rong, there is no news yet. This person is untraceable internationally. It is difficult for anyone to locate her exact position. Still not found. Mo Jinrong was slightly disappointed. Master Rong, don't be discouraged, I will continue to look for her. Since she exists, we will definitely be able to find her. Zero was an internationally renowned psychologist and her hypnosis was said to be exceptional. Many sought her help, but not many had the ability to engage her. Mo Jinrong had always wanted to find Zero, as he needed her to hypnotize him, but there was still no result even after searching for a few years. He only ran into her once by accident, but could remember her big watery eyes. Speed up, Mo Jinrong said indifferently. Yes. After Mo Sen finished addressing his official business, he continued to care about young Mistress Lon. Master Rong, forgive me for asking, don't lose your life because of a woman, your illness. Mo Jinrong took off his sunglasses and looked at him coldly. Do you care about her so much? No, I dare not, I'm just concerned about your body. You haven't touched a woman in so many years, but now, you're suddenly going to get married. Will your body be able to take it? After all, your illness hasn't healed, just in case. Mo San looked at him worriedly. There is nothing to worry about. We are going to be married, but I won't touch her. It's just a mutual agreement. Mo Jinrong had very serious angina pectoris, but his condition wouldn't flare up any time or anywhere, it would only happen if he touched a woman. His body's stress response would cause his heart to overload, causing the angina pectoris. Hence, he needed Zero to help him with hypnotherapy. This wasn't a disease that could be treated with medication, it was a psychological disorder. He had sought out countless self-proclaimed renowned psychologists who prescribed him with numerous psychological drugs, but none of them worked. Zero was his last hope. Lon Anran was in her room, staring silently at the jade bracelet in her hand. Her mind was filled with memories of her past life. In her past life, Mo Jinrong had given her an identical bracelet when they got married, which shone brightly in the sun. But back then, she didn't understand and thought that Mo Jinrong was being perfunctory by giving her a piece of glass for their marriage. She was very dissatisfied and broke the bracelet in front of everyone. Since then, the distance between her and Mo Jinrong had grown deeper and deeper. It wasn't until this life did she know that she had let him down. This was a piece of glass jade, which was extremely valuable. The mining of the material was very rare. She felt a deep sense of guilt in her heart. She wore the bracelet. She would definitely protect it well in this lifetime. Just as Lon Anran was immersed in the memories of her past life, she heard a mocking voice from outside which made her extremely upset. When she heard the voice, she knew that the hated Lon Yashin was here. Second uncle, I heard that Mo Jinrong was here. Is sis very sad? I'm here to comfort her. When Lon Yashin went back to Zhao Shumei, she heard that Mo Jinrong had come to ask for Anran's hand and had wanted to see how ugly her brother-in-law was. She was wearing a sad and tormented expression. Mo Jinrong just left. Lan Tingyun's face was especially grim and he felt upset at the thought of Mo Jinrong's old and ugly appearance. He wasn't worthy of her beauty at all. When Lan Yashin saw Lan Tingyun's expression, she had a faint idea. Everyone said that Mo Jinrong was vulgar and tyrannical, and it seemed to be true. Fortunately, she wasn't the one getting married. What about Anren? I want to visit her. Lan Yashin looked inside, and frowned when she saw the dowry not far away. What do you want? Lan Anren came down when she heard the voice and asked angrily. Sis, I'm here to see you. I heard that my future brother-in-law was here. He didn't bully you, right? Lan Yashin asked pretentiously, her gaze still on the gifts in the corner. Chapter 19. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Jade Bracelet Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations, of course not, your brother-in-law is great. Lan Anren smiled. Lan Yashin looked at Lan Anren's smile and found it forced. She believed that Lan Anren was putting on a strong front. That's good. It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't. Lan Yashin started to cry as she spoke. Lan Tingyun was not in a good mood. He knew that Lan Yashin was here to gloat. Usually, she would rely on old Mrs. Lan and Su Yenshan to ridicule him. Don't cry. No one died, so stop crying. If you don't have anything more to do here, go home. Lan Anren hated when others cried and she grew impatient. Lan Yashin bit her lip, a little embarrassed. She was just a countryside girl, she wasn't worthy enough to scold her. She suppressed her anger, stopped crying, and spoke with a big smile on her face. Sis, I'm glad you are happy. In fact, Grandma asked me to see you. She said that the Mo family is coming to ask for your hand and was worried they weren't thorough. Let me have a look. Have they sent the dowries? Mo Jinrong was ugly, but the Mo family probably wouldn't be stingy over dowries. But Lan Anren was just a countryside girl. Even if they offered a dowry, it wouldn't be anything good. She just wanted to see if there was anything she could take, which would be better than nothing. Over there. Lan Anren stepped to the side. The gifts took up the entire hall. There were large and small boxes, but she couldn't tell what was inside. Lan Yashin took a brief look and was surprised. The Mo family had given her so many things. It seemed that Mo Jinrong wasn't just ugly, even his judgment was flawed. The boxes were pretty, but they could still have something cheap inside. Lan Yashin retracted her gaze and said with a smile, the Mo family is really rich, he sent so many gifts. I wonder what's inside. Her eyes rolled, glancing over at the gift boxes. It has nothing to do with you. You're so annoying. Lan Yanran came out and said outwardly. He had seen Mo Jinrong and he knew he was hideous. He seemed to be around 30 or 40 years old. He felt bad for his sister. Yanran, what's the matter with you? Don't talk nonsense. Lan Tingyun chided. Lan Yanran pouted, bowing his head in silence. There isn't anything much, just some small things like this box of Changbai mountain ginseng and this box of agate bracelets. Here are some valuable calligraphy drawings and paintings, and some store items. Are you satisfied? Lan Anren walked over and introduced them one by one, speaking with a bright smile. Damn it. This is good stuff. That brat got herself a bargain. Lan Yashin was furious. The boxes didn't look like much, but the contents weren't simple. She bit her lip secretly and a trace of anger flashed in her eyes. Sis, Mo Jinrong is so kind, he seems to value you a lot. Grandma was worried you would be bullied and asked me to take a look. She also said that she would make up for the dowry if you needed anything, Lan Yashin said kindly. She could only comfort herself that these gifts were common instead of rare treasures. Grandma didn't lack any of these simple things. Suddenly, Lan Anren stretched out her slim white arm and moved the hair on her forehead, revealing the jade bracelet. Lan Yashin was amazed by the reflected light. What's that? She stared at the jade bracelet on Lan Anren's wrist with shining eyes and smiled. Sis, the jade bracelet on your wrist is pretty, can you lend it to me? I don't think so. This was given to me by Mo Jinrong and you wouldn't be able to afford it if it broke, Lan Yanran smiled. Chapter 20 You are listening at novelfull.audio. You can't afford it translator. Henyi Translations editor. Henyi Translations The jade bracelet was the most valuable dowry. Yanran is right, this is a treasure, I can't give it to you. Lan Anren looked at Lan Yashin with a smile and continued to caress the bracelet, provoking her. What's so great about a piece of broken glass given by an ugly monster? She's acting as though I have never seen one before. County bumpkins are so ignorant. A trace of jealousy flashed in Lan Yashin's eyes, she had never worn such a valuable item. The brat sure is something. The more she looked, the angrier she got. She came over to gloat but unexpectedly, had given Anren a chance to flaunt her gifts. Lan Yashin was furious. She reluctantly smiled and said, I'm glad Mo Jinrong treats you well. I'll definitely share this news with Grandma, she will be delighted. Sis, second uncle, I'm leaving. Lan Tingyun nodded. He was extremely frustrated and couldn't wait for her to leave. Lan Yashin didn't stay any longer, turning to leave angrily. Sis, Mo Jinrong is hideous, have you thought this through? Lan Yanran asked with a worried expression. Anren, I let you down, I'm not a good mother, Li Yueru choked as she walked over to hold Lan Anren's hand. It's alright Mom, I'm willing and Mo Jinrong is alright. You don't have to be so worried. Lan Anren wanted to chuckle. Mo Jinrong's image was ruined by Mo San. She would definitely tease Mo Jinrong the next time she saw him. The Lan family villa. After Lan Yashin returned, she spun an exaggerated story to Zhao Shumei. Zhao Shumei was furious. Lan Anren, that insolent girl is indeed from the countryside. She doesn't have any manners at all. If she wasn't able to replace you in marrying Mo Jinrong, I would have chased her out of the Lan family. Grandma, don't be angry. Sis is just a little blunt after being in the countryside for such a long time, don't mind her. I'll be upset if you jeopardize your health because of her. Lan Yashin was great with her words and these few sentences were enough to delight Zhao Shumei. You're such a sweet talker. I would be satisfied if that girl was half as good as you. The mention of Lan Anren infuriates me. She was given so many valuable gifts and yet, she didn't send anything over. She was raised to such an old age and yet, she hasn't sent me anything. What an unfilial girl. Zhao Shumei scolded. Grandma, I wanted to pick a few pieces for you, but she said that you have tons of good stuff here, so you wouldn't need any of her things. She also said that you would be able to live longer without those items. Lan Yashin's voice grew smaller and smaller as she secretly watched Zhao Shumei's reaction. Outrageous. She dared to curse me. She has no manners. I must teach that brat a good lesson. Zhao Shumei was furious. She slammed down on the table, shocking Lan Yashin. Grandma, you're not well, don't be angry. She might have misunderstood my intentions. It's my fault. She just came back and probably didn't understand. Grandma, Rome City's annual pharmacy competition is in a few days. The champion of the competition will be awarded prize money and a bonus of 20 points. Wouldn't that make it easier for me to enter the Rome City Medical Research Institute? Grandma, you're a herb expert, please give me a little of your superb skills so that I can win the competition. I won't just bring you glory. Wouldn't you like a mink coat? Why don't I buy it for you with the prize money? Lan Yashin coquettishly begged. You witty little imp. Sure, I will pass on to you my lifelong skills. You must beat Lan Anren and help me vent my frustrations. Zhao Shumei happily stroked the bridge of Lan Yashin's nose and smiled. Don't worry, Grandma, I will definitely surpass her and win you honor. Who could win against an expert like you? Lan Yashin smiled.